Star City Games Open Series in Kansas City. I'm just going to take his deck list and play it. There's Adam on the screen right now.
Yep.
You're going to roll and see who goes first. Adam is a guy known for a long time. We used to game.
Oh, lucky.
He's awesome. We used to game back in Phoenix when I was like 12 years old, make fun of each other. It was good times. He taught me the ways of the Vidilkin shackles. On your right, on your screen now is Neil Ocampo, piloting Conleywood's blue-green deck. And this ought to be a good match.
Now, notably, Garrick Wildspeaker was the first best Planeswalker, if you remember, back when Lorwyn first came out in 2007. Garrick was the big one, you know, the big Planeswalker, the $25 card. So, you know, he's still a good card, and it's surprising how little play he's seen since then. He was in those like Black-Green Elves lists at the time, which were kind of taking Worlds by storm that year, but literally taking Worlds by storm was Dragonstorm that year. If you remember Worlds 2007 in New York, that was the year that Patrick Chapin and Gabriel Nassif, I believe Mark Herberholtz, all brewed up a Dragonstorm list, and Nassif and Chapin both made it to the top 8 and had to face each other. And there's their memorable matchup where Patrick casts a Ignite Memories with a storm count of, I believe, 5, and Nassif is at 9 life and somehow manages to survive 5 copies of Ignite Memories. This is a recent topic on Twitter, actually. You kind of started it, Gavin, with the... on YouTube, people have been doing the recuts of the Inception trailer or recuts of other trailers using Inception music, and you suggested on Twitter that people should put some Magic Pro Tour coverage to the Inception music, and someone, Dan Barrett, actually suggested the Dragonstorm match from Worlds 2007. He put one together where it's the Inception soundtrack kind of playing behind the match. I actually put one together as well, which is more like a trailer for the match, which if you YouTube Dragonstorm Inception, you'll be able to see it. I just put it together for fun. It's kind of I kind of used to do a lot of video editing, and it was something I kind of felt like doing. So anyway, the players look like.
So we're on. It looks like Neil Ocampo on the dice roll, and here comes Jiraga Tree Speaker, and a Preordain from Prosak. He's going to look at 2 lovely cards.
What do you think of the first turn Preordain? A lot of people have said that that's not really good play. I mean, unless you're digging for land. Does that kind of give your opponent that read?
I think it really depends on your hand. I mean, the thing about Preordain, not so much digging for land, but digging for what your strategy is. Because, like, if you know what you're trying to do, then Preordain is fine on turn 1, because you're like, okay, well, I need acceleration, I need creatures, I need to find a big guy. But if you don't know how your hand's going to develop, like, or how your game's going to develop, really, then you should hold on to your Preordains. Like, a lot of people feel like you should always cast on turn 1, but that's actually not correct. Like Shaheen Sarani was talking about, or no, it wasn't Shaheen. It was
Nick Spagnuolo.
Was talking about how turn 1 Preordain is one of the most mistakenly understood plays in Standard, and it's certainly something that can be remedied. Looks like we've got a bunch of foil lands on Neil Ocampo's set. And
Neil with the Halimar Depths. You know a card I miss? It only really saw the light of day for a short time. It was Treasure Hunt last year alongside Halimar Depths and Jace the Mind Sculptor. I mean, I guess there's just better options right now, but it was such a good feeling when you were like Halimar Depths and you set it up so your Treasure Hunt just digs you into your library. So much velocity digging through your library that way.
And so, man, it's turn 2 for Prosak, and his opponent's already got quite the board position. Or
turn 3 for Ocampo. Turn 3 for It's Prosak's turn right now. But
so what's up with that?
It's a Spreading Seas.
It's a Spreading Seas. Yeah. Interesting.
I hate when they do that. So the Spreading Seas is sitting there over, on the bottom under the words Open Series.
There's a lot of interesting things. Like some people just put spreading seas on the land, but as we heard about earlier, that can sometimes be dangerous. Some people will just make you put your land to the side, or put their land to the side, and then put spreading seas in its place and have spreading seas. Some people will flip their cards face down. It's really interesting. I mean, I'm a person who just like puts it on my land and manages it, but I can see why you wouldn't want to do that. It's also just annoying to do, you know?
One of the way I do it is if I cast a spreading seas, I put it on top of the land that I'm targeting, and I leave it so that it's face up for, not face up, but like right side up for me, so that it's upside down to the opponent. So at least it doesn't look like it's one of his permanents, because it's, you know, it's upside down to him. So that's at least one way to kind of avoid getting your spreading seas mixed in with the other guy's cards.
The Pittsburgh Steelers have come back to take the lead. They now lead the Baltimore Ravens 24-21.
Just got an NFL update that the Steelers are winning right now by a field goal, and that is a problem. On the Magic side of things, we have a Jiraga Tree Speaker and Overgrown Battlement leveling up the Tree Speaker.
All right, and staring down Jace, and but Neil is certainly ramping up. And he has access to what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana already. That's Titan range right there.
Yeah.
Now Adam does have some counter magic. He's got 4 mana leaks and 2 deprives, which can help take care of Neil's big threats. But let's see what happens. So gonna do some brainstorming with Jace. When Adam was in the booth just moments ago, he was pretty excited about Jace. He's like, yeah, it's just the sweetest card. I can play with it today and tomorrow. And that's fair enough. Jace is good in all formats.
He really is, yeah.
It's amazing how the card is just impacted so wide. And a lot of people don't like Jace, but I feel like it's, or we know what Jace has done to the game, but I feel like it's great that a card has been released. It's not like a broken combo card or anything, or some degenerate stopping card. It's just a powerful card that can see play in every format. You can see it in Standard, Extended, Legacy, Vintage, Booster Draft.
Yeah.
You know,
if you're unlucky, if you're playing against it. Right?
Like the week or two after Jace came out, I went to Grand Prix Dallas last year, and I walked by the draft that like got like Paulo Vitor Damo, DeRosa, Luis Scott Vargas, David Ochoa, like a lot of Brad Nelson. I think a lot of very good players, and sitting on the side in the prize pool is a foiled Jace that they opened.
Oh wow!
And like. So it's not just like a draft, you know, obviously like they're playing for the cards or whatever, but this like the winner gets the foiled Jace.
Foiled
like,
Jace, yeah.
How do you split that up? Like who gets the foiled Jace, right? It's I mean normally in a 3-on-3 draft you'll split up the rares by like who won the most matches or something, but when there's foiled Jace on the line there might have been some bloodshed. So I did not stick around for the resolution of that event.
Yeah, the way the way Brian Kowal and I split up some rares at Nationals in that draft that we all did, where he factor fiction them, you know.
Yeah.
He split them into 2 piles and let me pick which pile. So that's another way to do it. But you can't do that with a foil Jace.
No, not very well.
It makes it very unattractive if you split the Jace in half.
Yeah. It's there's a lot of cool ways you can redistribute rares. One popular way is the Italian game. Other people will call it like Magic War. You just shuffle all the cards on. It's like on the table, everyone flips up a card, and whoever has the highest mana cost takes all the cards.
Oh wow!
You know, and so that's something a lot of people like to do. Other people will lay out all the rares and just draft them one at a time.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's always fun playing for the rares, I feel.
In the meantime, we've got 6 mana worth of or
way more than that.
Well, I'm just saying 6 mana just out of the creatures on Ocampo's side.
5, but
is it
close?
2? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's 5. For some reason, I keep thinking Overgrown Battlement adds 2. I don't know why. That would be ridiculous.
That's because when it's on your opponent's side of the battlefield, it almost always adds 2, because they always have that kind of draw. So let's see. There are 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 manas, if I would make that sentence correct, available to Neil Ocampo. What's he going to do with it? Prosak's leaving mana up, and it's really hard for that deck to operate when they're worried about counter magic. Obviously, they can keep deploying threats, and as if you saw Conley play last weekend, he continually would just like play threats into counter magic, and eventually they just run out. Yeah, here's a mana leak. by Prosak, and he pays 3, and then there's a second mana link to take down that Primeval Titan. And the 2 deprives from Prosak, I think, are going to be crucial. Those hard counters, especially if Neil doesn't know about them, are things he'll just walk right into.
Yeah.
Let's see. So Prosak's keeping up his Jace.
Did Ocampo attack into Jace? Is that what just happened with the tree speakers?
He attacked with 1 tree speaker.
Okay.
I believe, because he had to tap 6 for the Primeval Titan.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry.
3 for mana leak. No. Yeah, no, he didn't attack. He had to pay 3 for mana leak also.
Okay.
So yeah, yeah.
I saw him turn him sideways and thought he was attacking, but apparently he was just adding mana.
Nope. Funny thing about elves, they like to turn sideways for reasons other than attacking.
Trying to see. Looks like I see Garrick and Scalding Tarn.
Green mana?
There's the Scalding Tarn in Adam's hand. Plays a Lotus Cobra.
Second green floater.
Lotus Cobra, Scalding Tarn gets an island. Sure.
Alright, so here comes the Garrick Wildspeaker, and that's kind of one of the big things in Prosak's deck. And it leaves up 2 blue, so I don't know if he has the Deprive in his hand, but if he does, it's going to be great. Alright, so he passes back, and let's see what Neil goes for this turn. Alright, Frost Titan comes down for Neil Ocampo. And we'll see what that's going to do. Prosak's thinking, does he have the Deprive? Let's find out. Joey is taking a quick break, so we're joined by
now I can tap it.
coverage manager Glenn Jones here.
Go ahead.
Hello again, everyone. Oh, here's my pen, Joey. Let's see how it is. All right.
And so, Glenn, just to catch up to date, we're watching Green-Blue Genesis Wave against Adam's kind of innovative take on the Blue-Red-Green archetype that Dan Jordan and Alex Bertolucci really got behind. Prosak has Garrick Wildspeakers, which have been great for him all day. I talked to him right before this match started, and he really said that they've been way better than Oracle Moldiah. He's got Deprives for a little more counter magic, and he's also split up his threats.
15.
You don't have to worry about the Arc Trail problem, I suppose. If like a lot of people Oracle into Lotus Cobra, the Arc Trail blows you out there. And Garrick, definitely when you have a Cobra, is probably just you're dropping the biggest threat. Like you always want to be smashing.
Right. I mean, Garrick still accelerates you just like Oracle did. But simultaneously, like you can create some beasts to block. I mean,
even the overrun.
Yeah, I was going to say
surprisingly threatening.
Avengers Zendikar overrun by Garrick. I mean, that seems totally legitimate.
I've seen a lot of Rug decks just spin around when they were defending themselves, and all of a sudden they just attack with their little dudes, and then Frost Titan, and you're dead on the next attack. Like,
yeah, exactly.
They didn't attack you at all until that point. Oh, what do you know? A Frost Titan.
Oh, about that. Yep, and Frost Titan comes down, and ironically, Frost Titan is usually the best answer to a Frost Titan.
Yep.
Now we don't.
He who frosts first, frosts not at all.
Exactly. Now we don't know what's in Neil's hand, but it could be disastrous for Adam if he's able to launch like a Genesis Wave or something similar here.
How big could he get a Genesis Wave right now? 4, 5, 6 exactly?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, 6 exactly. But he doesn't have it, so he just goes for the Spreading Seas, knocking down Adam's green source. And
that is his only one. Yeah.
And I must say,
Cobra, of course.
Neil looks a little crestfallen. He's looking at the cards in his hand, trying to figure out how he's going to get himself out of this.
None of them are as good as Jace, Garrick, or Frost Titan.
Yeah,
that much is clear.
Look at Adam's board. Isn't that just the sweetest deck? You've got Jace, Garrick, Lotus Cobra, and Frost Titan. Oh man, he's got
the Deprive in hand. This game's on lock and key.
Yeah. Adam is.
If a meteor hits him, then he might lose, but it would still be a race.
Adam is really far ahead, and his deck's doing exactly what he wanted. Like, he was in the booth and he was talking about, how against all these decks, the deprives are important because you really want to be able to have that hard counter. And he's diversified his threats, so he can launch a bunch of different things. And the Garrick's, just once again, they look phenomenal. I think that's a wonderful upgrade for the archetype. Oh, and
Fate Seal to
yep, and he chooses to Fate Seal, leave the Misty Rainforest.
Anytime they Fate Seal and you keep it, it's
it's just a sinking
generally
feeling.
over in this spot.
Although keeping a fetch land isn't the worst, since you can make sure their Jace doesn't hit next turn.
I mean, he's going to overrun next turn and just kill this guy.
It's true. Yeah, that should be lethal, and if not, it'll put him way too far behind to possibly win the game. Yeah, exactly. And Adam's doing the math right now to try and figure it out, but that looks like 5, 11, and 17 points of power, and he can block 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
The math checks out.
And here they come. Oh, and he locks down the creature. I think that might just be lethal.
Yep. Well, that's why he's over there.
And Neil's doing the math. And Adam is gesturing
explaining
wildly.
the math, and the math is done.
Yeah. And like a good professor, he has shown his students how to accomplish the math, and that takes game 1.
We didn't even have to Raging Ravine there. We could have, couldn't we? Oh no, that was never mind. That was in the yard. He knocked it to the side.
What do you find
It's like, whoa.
For those of you just joining us, this is Gavin Verhey, joined by Glenn Jones. And we're watching round number 6. Feature match is 5-0 players. It's Adam Prosak with an innovative take on his red-blue-green deck against Neil Ocampo, who's playing pretty close to Conley Wood's stock blue-green deck from last week. You're watching the Star City Games Open Series in San Jose, and this has been a great tournament. A lot of innovative decks that come out of this event. And just a lot of interesting meta shifts, a lot of people doing cool things. We saw a really interesting Ooze deck earlier, which Glenn will have a deck tech up on a little later. And now we're watching this, which is Adam's new take on red, blue, green. And in Standard, often the way you can get a big edge and be really innovative is just by tweaking current decks, and Adam has done just that. He loves messing around with his decks, he loves trying out new things, and this is a really great example of that.
For the most part.
And looking at Adam's sideboard, let's see. So he's got some acidic slimes he might bring in, potentially some pyroclasms to clear away tree speakers and cobras.
What do you like about the Spell Pierce, maybe for the Genesis waves?
Spell Pierce is reasonable. The issue, of course, is
Naturally,
that
it's a mana developing deck, and it's not a great counter against those kind of decks. But with Genesis Wave, I feel like a lot of people
just because I wanted to.
Like the point of the cards to get greedy. I mean, it's hard to justify not spending that extra 2 on your wave and leaving it on tap for some reason. I know I've caught a lot of Elf players. Like I left in Spell Pierce against Elves several times because they just wouldn't think about it.
It was just a small
exactly. And I mean, I think that the spreading season and Adam's main deck really aren't that exciting in this matchup. They could probably go out. Potentially one of the bigger threats. He's got 2 Frost Titan, 1 Inferno Titan, 1 Avenger of Zendikar, and one of those could probably go out. Lightning Bolt probably stays in to off some of the early guys. Otherwise, I think the rest is probably...
Yeah, you gotta keep Lightning Bolt in for those Jiraga tree speakers.
Yeah, maybe you can shave an Explorer if you want, but I could definitely see taking out the Spreading Seas. All he wants to bring in, Spell Pierce, maybe that Jace.
Jace for sure, yeah.
Avenger of Zendikar is kind of an interesting card. You might sub that in for like Inferno Titan or something, just because...
it can almost kind of turn back a Genesis Wave depending on how hard he hits.
Exactly. Like you can wave for a bunch, and if you just go, all right, untap Avenger, get
fetch land.
6 tokens, fetch land. I mean, that can turn the tide. Of course, depends on what they wave. Sometimes they just wave into the board that will lock you out of lands anyway. Like if they're acidic slimes, they're frost titans, and
sometimes they wave into the nothing.
Right. Exactly. Sometimes it's just a bunch of lands. So the players are shuffling up, and we'll see how this goes.
Why would you?
Adam's up on the first game, but Adam is always a great player to play against. He's always having fun. He's always comical. Even in the direst of situations, who will be playing in the finals of a PTQ, he'll be playing for a berth, a high-placing berth at Nationals. He's just joking around, having fun. He's someone who just genuinely loves the game for what it is. It's just a fun game to play. I've been playing with him. He lives in Phoenix, and I've been playing with him, since I was like 12. or 13 years old. And even then, he was always having fun, always teaching me, like, always have fun when you play, like, do things that'll make you have fun. And genuinely, I think he's improved my Magic experience, and I'm really glad to see him doing so well. And then on the right, we've got Neil Ocampo, which is kind of like I assume an up-and-comer from this area. He saw Conley's Genesis Wave deck and was like, yeah, that looks like a good deck to play. And he's been piloting it really well so far. He's 5-0 with the deck. See where it goes from here.
Nothing to complain about, that's to be sure.
That's for sure. I mean, they're only 9 rounds today, so if they can win this round, they're just one more round away from probably drawing it into the top 8, assuming the players draw this week. Now, last week there was a little bit of discussion because none of the players chose to draw. Is that correct?
Yeah, in the last round of the Legacy, none of the players chose to draw.
Yeah, which is really interesting. Because normally when
except for the fully undefeated players.
Right. Normally, players will just start drawing in, but not the case.
I think there was a lot of people weren't confident in their tiebreaker math. There were people who had a distinct edge, but not. There was no one who was ahead by 11 points or anything like that. I don't think. All of the margins were 3 to 8, and while 3 points is a big jump. I've seen that happen, of course, but I mean, generally I will feel personally confident drawing in with 3 points. If I'm going to get got that weekend, I guess I'm getting got.
Right.
But those guys decided not to take the chance and just play it out.
Yeah.
And
So,
it paid off for Lewis Laskin, who snaked in at 8th place.
Yeah, and that worked out really well for him with his innovative green and taxes deck.
Yeah, I liked that deck a lot. It seemed really sweet. Knight of the Reliquary and Wasteland is just so dirty.
Oh, man.
Dirty.
Definitely. And it looks like we're off to the races. Neil keeps his hand, and Prosak's mulling over his. And it has Preordain, which is definitely tempting. Any hand with a Preordain. Yep, and he decides to keep. So
Preordain keep.
Yep, Prosak's going to go for the turn 1 Preordain. And a lot of people don't feel like you should play on turn 1. Some people do, and I think it depends on your hand. And this is a hand that looks like has a lot of lands, and he's going to want to dig to find some action. Find a Lotus Cobra, find that Explorer that he needs.
I think because, especially in the Lotus Cobra decks, the turn 1 Preordain just winds up being correct so often unless you already have the Lotus Cobra.
Yeah,
because he just supercharges.
Oh, and there it is. The Lotus Cobra is right there on top. And Lightning Bolt, too, to even back it up.
Oh, we got that Forest Mountain Raging being the perfect lands.
Wow.
This one is developing nicely, I think.
Yeah. Yep. So, if Neil's plan goes according to plan, it seems like he'll probably lay a Man Accelerator here and then start going off an Accelerator. But no, he just passes back. He doesn't have anything.
That's not good, actually.
He
must be holding Leak probably for the.
Well, the Genesis Wave deck doesn't play.
He doesn't play Leak?
Yeah,
really?
they can't.
Because of the wave. Yeah. No, good call.
And you're also just tapping out so often. When I watched Conley play the deck last week, often what they do is they just be tap out for a threat. Okay, you have a counter spell. Well, tap out again. And so they really want to be the aggressor.
It's interesting because I feel like their decks actually kind of threat light, considering. I mean, you have the Giant Expo, of course, and the Titans, but it's not really that many. I guess the Slimes.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got 7 Titans, 4 Slimes, and 3 Genesis Waves, so that's...
I guess the Slimes take up that slack.
Yeah, I mean, that's 8, 11, that's 14, plus Jace, if you want to count that.
We are going to seize the Forest.
And and so the Forest goes down, but Adam looks pretty cheery. He's got a Lotus Cobra to back it up, so he can still get all the mana he wants. And I'm almost wondering if maybe Neil didn't try and dig for a creature there because he was really looking for make sure that they could just get lightning bolted.
Could be.
And Adam's again at it with Garrick, and sometimes it'll make untap some lands. But this time he's like, I'm on the beatdown. Let's make some beasts.
I'm definitely liking Garrick here, especially his opponent does not even have the Overgrown Battlement to stem some bleeding.
Right, exactly. Looking like a good position for Adam. Power break. You want a break?
Just sit around.
Okay, sure. Go for it. What do you think? All right, so I'll be tagging out, and I will have Joey Pasco join you.
Joey, back from lunch. Was it delicious?
It was delicious.
All
pizza.
right.
I've never had pizza before.
Really?
No, not at all. Not really at all.
Just checking.
Keeping up with the...
I mean, I introduced Lauren Lee to Chick-fil-A a few weeks ago. She'd never had Chick-fil-A before. I found that kind of odd, too.
Yeah, I mean, she was at GPDC, and there was a Chick-fil-A, right across the parking lot. How could she have missed it?
We wound up grabbing all of the sauces, literally just asking for one of every sauce so that she could rank them in a tier system. And Chick-fil-A sauce, unsurprisingly, won out for her.
My favorite, yeah.
Polynesian also sharing a high tier.
I guess you won't.
I believe Ranch wound up, towards the bottom.
Yeah,
So-
I used to get their honey mustard sauce all the time, and then they introduced that Chick-fil-A sauce, and I'm like, so
Strict upgrade, yeah.
yeah. To me, Chick-fil-A sauce is honey mustard sauce, and Chick-fil-A's version of honey mustard sauce is
And-
just a little different.
This game's over.
Well,
Huh. Turn 5
see what
Frost Titan,
happens.
Raging Ravine Bashes, game's over. Thrilling
Two
stuff.
games to 0. It's my bad.
Adam Prosak over the Blue Green Genesis winner.
He's 6-0.